It was Moss the Chronicler who said that the land of Valisthea is blessed in the light of the Mother Crystals, and that it was this light which finally led our forebears out of the darkness. Yet, what they saw in the light gave rise to temptation. Temptation that ever lures us back into the crystal shadow. And thus did our journey begin.
This game is good as great story, great characters, really good world building and gameplay paired with a soundtrack that slaps all the way. Yet, people aren't talking about it. Why aren't people talking about it? Well, the current answer is that the game has come out months ago now, so makes sense that most people aren't talking about it anymore. But if you're like me, one of my favorite things to do after I beat a game that I enjoyed is to go look at content made about that game. Look at reviews from channels I love, such as Video Game Donkey, Maximilian Dude, Moist Critical. But this time, even during the release, there weren't a lot of videos to watch. Max did play the game, but it was like the only one. And I think that comes down to the length of the game. After all, it's a JRPG, so it's like a really big game. But still, I was let down by the lack of content made about this masterpiece. Everything about this game rocks. The world it takes place in is really interesting, the characters are charismatic, most of them. It's not too anime, at least at the first half of the game, which I don't mind games that are, since I like anime. But for a game that takes place in a medieval time, I find that those two things usually don't mix together very well. The graphics are great, the cinematics are insane, and to top it all off, the soundtrack is so good. All reviews that I've watched made this comparison, but it really is the closest thing to it. It reminds me a lot of Game of Thrones, at least the good part. And the game, as everything, has its ups and downs. The story can be divided into two splits, pre-Bahamut and post-Bahamut. I think the first half of the game is like the best story-driven game I've ever played. The pacing is great, it keeps me gripped at all times with all its twists and turns, and it has a satisfying conclusion in the first part where the plot switches up a bit after the Bahamut fight. When the main antagonist is introduced, Ultima, I feel like the story gets a bit lost in the sauce, but nothing too serious, not enough to ruin the experience. Overall, the characters are all great, I just have a couple minor gripes with some of them, but generally, they all serve their purpose really well, with some standing out by their outstanding performances like Clive and Dion. Joshua was cool at the beginning, and his reunion with Clive was great, but after that he just remained the same and turned out to be a bit bland. Jill's romance with Clive was really well made, but Jill's character in herself was probably one of the weakest parts of the game in my opinion, but still really good honestly, and their Icons theme is just heartbreaking. Gameplay wise, the game completely abandons the turn-based approach of the older titles, or the action turn-based mix of later titles like Final Fantasy XV, and just embraces the action RPG element. It's basically the Devil May Cry combat system with some twists. It was even made by the same guy, Ryota Suzuki, and even he called it his masterpiece, even though he made Devil May Cry 5 combat, which is widely known as one of the best combat systems in any game, period. One of the complaints I hear a lot is that the combat of this game is bland. If you just spam the square button and dodge from time to time just to then come out and say it's bland, when you can do so much more, I'm sorry, but you are a bum. I mean, just look at these clips I made in the practice area thingamajig of the game. How can you say this is bland? Hello? The combat mix with the most gorgeous and epic cinematics and soundtracks I've ever seen/heard in any game makes up for one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. When it comes to the soundtrack, I think that in this regard the game needs to win Best Soundtrack of the Year. I doubt that it'll win Game of the Year, even though I really want it to, but Soundtrack of the Year, I really think it has a chance to win. The game opens up with the theme Away, the Finnick vs Ifrit theme, and it's already a banger, but it doesn't stop there. Not only are all of the boss fight themes insanely good, the only one I kinda dislike is the Titan one, but even that one I still like. The area themes are slappers too. I no joke listened to this soundtrack after finishing the game for months, and still listen to this day when studying or sometimes even in car trips. It's just that good. The end credit music of Final Fantasy VII Remake, Hollow, was really good, and I thought nothing could top it, but my star, the end credits track for this game, is at the same level, if not better. It completely broke my heart seeing Clive allegedly dying, and Jill watching Mattia going out, meaning Clive succeeded in his mission to wipe out magic from the world. All paired with my star playing on the back, this track is just soul-hauntingly beautiful. This is Game of the Year for me, no joke. I cried at the end of the game. Almost no other piece of media can make me cry like a little bitch as this one did. Even with the strong year of gaming we've had in 2023, with releases such as Spider-Man 2, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Bros. Wonder, Lies of P, Final Fantasy XVI is still the Game of the Year for me. I know that it's not going to win. It probably won't even get nominated, but it will win for me. It'll be my headcanon.